Will Gregory, good to see you, buddy.
Hey, good to be here, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad to get to sit down with you, not least because you've been on my list of guests for a long time. I wanted to talk to you on this podcast in particular for a long time. But I just happened to get you right after you won a huge contest.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. But first, Will, let me get you to just introduce yourself to people who may not know you. We have listeners all over the United States, really all over the world now. So tell everybody who you are, kind of what you do, what daily life looks like for Will Gregory.
Okay. Of course, I'm Will Gregory, and I am from Logan County, Kentucky. And I live on a horse farm there, and we raise draft horses, and we raise mules, and we got quarter horse work stock as well, and got a few calves. So we live the kind of the farm life the best that we can, but I make my living every day as an auctioneer. I'm a full-time auctioneer. I work in the real estate business. We sell a lot of real estate at auction and kind of specialize in that. We also sell a lot of farm machinery. I sell livestock every Monday. That's kind of a new job for me. I started that this year. I've been wanting to get into that for a long time and was finally blessed with that opportunity this year and was able to take that. And I just fell even more in love with it than what I even expected that I would. I really enjoy that aspect of the business. And so I'm in my home county whenever I sell on Mondays. And I think that's really a good opportunity as well, because I do make my living in the real estate auction business. So it just kind of helps me with more contacts and with more opportunity to work and exercise that auction chance, so really enjoy doing that. And I'm a father and a husband. Me and my wife have been married going on 11 years in October. And we have 3 children. We've got Lydia, she is 8 years old. We got Nora B, she's 6 years old. And then we've got little Gus, and he's 3 years old. So we've been very, very blessed and just feel very humble to be able to do what I do for a living. And I love it. I started out as a horseshoer and a farrier and blacksmith. So right out of high school, I went to horseshoeing school, went to Kentucky horseshoeing school. And so never really thought that auctioneering was something that I was going to do. And it just kind of presented itself. I actually started doing some auctioneering and learning how to auctioneer because I was the president or vice president of the Saddle Club, and we do benefit auctions from time to time. And so that's why I actually started learning to chant and had some doors open through that. And of course, I work with Tim Haley here at Haley Auctions and Realty, just a legend in the business. Undoubtedly, he's known all over the United States. And I grew up with his oldest son, Adam. We graduated together. Our families were family friends for years. And so it was just really cool, the opportunities that I've been blessed with and the people that I've been able to work with. And I would just have to say that working with Tim has been a big blessing for me every day. He kind of took me in under his wing and brought me to where I am today, because I started at literally as bottom as it gets, so.
Yeah. Well, so when did you start doing auctions? When did you start that particular journey?
2012. So here I am. October, it'll be 12 years that I've had my auctioneer, or when I went to auction school was October of 2012. So I guess sometime in 2012 is whenever I started learning the auction channel a little bit. And that is actually the same year that Haley Auctions and Realty started, which is the company that I work for. And of course, before then it was Tim Haley Auctions. And then in 2012, he got his brokerage license, started his own company. And so I'm one of the original ones. We always kind of joke about that I'm one of the original ones. But that was 2012. I went to Kentucky Auction Academy. And of course, Tim was an instructor there, as well as Steve Cherry and Steve Henry, Ron Kirby, several of those guys. So.
Yeah. Well, tell me a little bit about Kentucky Auction Academy. One of these days, I want to get Steve Cherry, Steve Henry, some other of those guys on the podcast to talk about their school. Most of what I've promoted on the podcast has been Nashville Auction School, because that's who I work for a little bit. They invite me to come do bid call and practice for them. And of course, I've got great friends, and I'm here in Murfreesboro, which is where the school is. So we talk about Nashville a lot. But tell us a little bit about Kentucky for those of y'all north of my Tennessee border.
Yeah, well, let me just say that I think that any time that an auction school comes come to mind. Anybody starts asking questions, I don't think that you could go wrong with Nashville Auction School or Kentucky Auction
I
Academy.
agree.
I would be an advocate for either of those schools. I think I think a lot of the owners and have personal relationship with the owners of
Mhm.
both and the instructors, and I just think that they both do an outstanding job. So I just want to be noted as saying that first
Well,
off.
to your point, Will, I'm there are a lot of auction schools in the United States. I can't think of one off the top of my head that I would tell somebody don't go to.
Yeah.
They're all wonderful. It just
Well, that's a
depends
good
on what
point.
you're
That's a
looking
real
for.
good point. Yeah.
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 Go ahead, Kentucky.
But I have personal experience with both of these, and so I would be more than willing to recommend them. And a lot of times you have to recommend according to geographical location, and so I would be comfortable recommending either one of those schools. But I am an alumni of Kentucky Auction Academy, so I definitely want to promote them and say that I think they do an outstanding job. I always said that I was 20. I guess I was 22 years old whenever I went to auction school, and I learned more about life in that time period of that school than I did about auctioneering, honestly. I mean, well, I say that. They taught me a lot about life. And there was a lot about the values and, setting your personal schedule and the things that are important and stuff like that. And I just really appreciated what these men were pouring into us as students and me in particularly during that time. I was really enjoyed that. And so sometimes I get the opportunity to go as a fill-in instructor for the Kentucky Auction Academy. And I always remember how they treated me and the things that they taught me. And I try to do that exact same thing when I get that opportunity to pour into the next generation of auctioneers.
What was one thing that stuck with you from the Auction Academy that you still use on a daily basis?
I think, I think really the balance of life is probably one of the biggest things that sticks out to me. I remember them talking about how if you schedule something for yourself at 10 o'clock on Tuesday morning, that is a scheduled event and that you should treat it as so, just like any other appointment. And I was self-employed at that time, just like I am now. I'm an independent contractor now, but then, I was shoeing horses. And so I really didn't have a balance of life at that time. And it was really hard to say no to anybody. Anybody that needed their horse shot or needed their horse cared for, hey, I was going to go do it no matter what. And I remember how valuable I remember that being. Like I thought, man, this is something that I could use in my life, whether I'm an auctioneer or not. This is something that I could use in my day to day. And I still try to revert back to that at times. And of course, we are a people serving business and an industry that we serve people in and just love that opportunity and we love what we do. But it's very important to recognize that you got to take some time for yourself and recharge your batteries too. So that's one thing that I would say I really got out of that.
Yeah, I like that. I was told in preaching school, no one will ever tell you you're doing too much.
Yeah.
Now, everybody will tell you you're doing not enough.
Yeah, that's
No one
right.
will tell you you're doing too much. So that's good, taking that time for yourself. And you don't want to neglect your family. This business is it's so chaotic sometimes. We can run in a million different directions and neglect the things that matter most if we're not careful. So that's a great point, Will. Will, let's talk horses and mules for just a minute.
All right.
So this,
We might need to extend our session here.
hey, that's fine. I got all the time in the world. But I have the pleasure of going this weekend to lead the invocation for the Prestige Horse Sale. I'm going to do that on Friday and Saturday here in Shelbyville. The walking horse celebration is going on right now, biggest horse show in the world, and where they have horse sales all the time down here. So I'm going. Chris Elliott is in charge of that sale. Blake McDaniel's the bid caller, and looking forward to seeing him again and seeing Chris and all of them. Now, my point is this: horse sales are livestock sales. Mule sales fall in that category, whatever. But it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
From my perspective, selling horses and mules than it is selling cattle once a week. One of the fundamental differences is one, you're typically working with a pedigree reader, maybe a narrator of some kind. And two, horses don't just run in the pen and run out. And there's a whole lot that can go wrong real quick at a horse sale.
Yeah.
So what does it look like when you are getting ready for a horse and mule auction? If you're organizing, if you're putting it together, take us through that process and some things that you look for.
Well, I would say that I really don't have a lot of experience as far as being the guy kind of managing that sale. And I have very little experience actually being the auctioneer at one of those sales. So I want to just make sure, be transparent with you about that. A lot of times I've worked more as a ringman in these situations than anything. And of course, I used to work with Tim at the Reese Brother Mule Sales, Tennessee Mule Sales. We've done those. We did do some draft horse sales there at Western Expo Center there in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and back whenever Chris Hatfield, he was heavy in the business, and we done a few sales there and really enjoyed that. But one thing that I always think about whenever you are working inside of that ring, and most of the time you will be inside of that ring so a lot of times you're outside of the sale ring. Whenever you're selling horses, most of the time you're inside of that sale ring. So the very first thing that comes to mind to me is you have to watch out for your own safety. It's interesting that whenever that horse, even if it is a well-trained animal, they're out there, they're doing their job. But whenever they get in that cell ring, a lot of times they can get antsy. And my dad always said that a horse will make a liar out of you every single time. So, you got to watch out for yourself whenever you're working for that. That's the first thing that comes to my mind, especially if you're dealing with colts or something like that. Walking horse colts, I can imagine they're going to be trying to get their heads up in the air. They're going to get them lifting their feet. They want them to kind of showcase what they are and their conformation. And whenever they're doing that, a lot of times, I know with draft stock, mule stock, whenever they do that, there's somebody chasing them around with kind of a flag, getting them fired up. You better watch yourself whenever that happens because you're liable to get fired at on their way by. So that's the first thing that comes to my mind is just personal safety on that. I think you're kind of on the fundamentals after that as far as being able to communicate with your auctioneer, working with that buyer. I think you're kind of working with the same fundamentals that you would with any kind of asset. But the one thing that you brought up that is a good point is, hey, these horses are in there. Most of the time they are performing. A lot of times you've got somebody that's handling them either on their back or along with them on a halter and lead rope or something like that. And so that's something that's a little bit out of the ordinary whenever you're used to selling cattle or goats or something like that. But, I think that the fundamentals are the same there.
Well, let me ask you about being a ringman in one of those sales. So when you're dealing with live animals, I mean, that's a whole nother creature. And your actions impact whatever else happens. So do you find being a ringman as something that for a horse sale is something that needs to be energetic or something that needs to be, I don't know, maybe more toned down, but still clear and communicative? What's your perspective? And I'm not saying one's right or one's wrong. I'm asking
Yeah.
you, what is it that you do?
No, I think that's a great question. And I think that for me, I would probably just rely on my instincts as a past equine professional to read that case by case. That's what I think I would do. So if I see that maybe this 10-year-old girl is riding this horse and she's not the most confident rider in the world, hey, I'm going to tone it down because once again, safety is very important here. But hey, if that cowboy's on there and I think he can ride him, I'm probably going to hoop and holler and carry on just like I would and try to create that excitement, but at the same time, you're representing that horse, to some degree. So you don't want to do something, if he's supposed to be a well-trained animal, you don't want to do something that causes him a hiccup. So you want to make sure that you're not doing something that is, causing that seller a problem, obviously. So you just got to read it by case, in my opinion. That's what I would rely on.
Yeah, I think that's good. I don't want to stereotype anyone at all, but I'll throw our dear friend Drew Williams under the bus for a minute. I've worked boar goat sales with Drew, many of them, and Drew will tell us before sale, he's like, guys, these buyers, they come, they want to be wined and dined, they want you to be energetic. They'll tell you no, but they want you to get in their face. They want you to joke with them and all this stuff and be really full of energy. And we do that, I mean, Keith Scrimshire and I have climbed up on panels. We've smacked people in the head with rolled up pieces of paper, a catalog or whatever. Your buyers at a horse or a mule sale, how would they respond to behavior like that?
I think you still got to revert to a case by case basis.
Sure. Yeah.
I think that a lot of times at a horse and mule sale, and it may be different with the Walking Horse Association. That could be a little different clientele than what you're dealing with at your Saturday night horse sale. But most of the time, those buyers are professionals to some degree. Your big pool of buyers are going to be professional. Now, you always going to have somebody that's coming there that is just looking for a recreational horse for their little girl or something like that. But a lot of times, I will say this, that at a horse sale, and even with like cattle sales, like commercial cattle sales more so than registered stock, the buyers don't want to be exposed. And so I think that's something you've got to be able to read in a case by case basis, and I think that those buyers will let you know pretty quick if they don't want to be exposed just by their reaction to you approaching them.
Yes, I feel the same way. That's true of almost every sale.
Yeah.
Especially I tell you this, man. We had a farm equipment sale last weekend, and we got in farm equipment. You got country people. They're probably taking cows to the sale barn the next day. They're probably cattle buyers of some kind, or as it goes, and they'll give you the little one finger wave or the scratch the nose or whatever. They don't want anyone to know that they're bidding. So it's a know your buyer situation.
Absolutely.
And your job as a bid caller, I think, and as a ringman, maybe even more so as a ringman,
as an auction professional in general.
Sure, that's a good way to put it. As an auction professional in general, is to figure out who's there and why are they there.
Yeah.
Right. So I like to get to auctions. Obviously, I get to personal property auctions very early because we have to set up. Okay. But once we're done setting up, I like to go around and talk to everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Figure out if they'll tell you. And it's not like you're asking, you're just trying to talk, make conversation. But after one guy, so I'll use an estate sale, for example. After one guy buys one piece of carnival glass, I know he's probably going to be in on every piece of carnival glass.
Yeah.
Right. So once one guy buys a yearling stud, you probably know he's going to be looking at some other yearling studs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, one thing that I see too, Josh, that goes along with that is, a lot of times whenever you're talking to these people kind of pregame, you're kind of doing that PR work. You're trying to figure this stuff out. And, that really comes into play with selling real estate at auction. We're working, we're trying to figure out, hey, who's our players here? And this didn't just happen whenever we showed up an hour before the sale, 2 hours before the sale. We're working on that throughout the marketing period.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact of the matter is, whether you're selling a piece of real estate or you're sitting there fixing to sell registered livestock and anywhere in between, really and truly, that read really comes whenever the auction is on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I see. A lot of times you can kind of read people beforehand, but whenever you're actually got them in front of you, sitting in the seats, and you can make that face-to-face contact, and now we recognize, hey, we're doing business now. Earlier we was chit-chatting, now we're doing business. Now is whenever you really get that read on those people, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Well, Will, the very first guest that I ever had on this podcast 2 years ago was Ryland Shea, right after he won the Kentucky State contest.
Yeah.
Have you won the Kentucky State contest? I'm sure you have.
I have, yes.
I was going to say I would be shocked beyond belief if you hadn't. But what year did you win?
I won in 2020.
Okay, all right. So the Kentucky Auctioneers Association has been a big part of your life.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
When I had the joy of coming to the association and speaking there and judging the contest, you were front and center right there in and amongst everybody. I don't know what office you had, if you even had an office that year, but it was great to see. So again, most of the people that I'm talking to, they're either in a state that doesn't have an association. Their association is relatively small and trying very hard to grow, or it's Tennessee, because I got a bunch of buddies in Tennessee, obviously. And so we talk about TAA. So I want to bring us all the way back to the very first podcast and pick up where Ryland left off 2 years ago. How has the Kentucky Auctioneers Association grown? What are they doing now? And what's your position with them? What do y'all have going on right now?
Well, I think that we're growing as far as I think there's a lot of people that a lot of young auctioneers that are interested in seeing the values in that relationship with other auctioneers. For whatever reason, I felt like there for a while we went through this period of time where they didn't see any value in those relationships, and I see that changing. And I see that changing because I see our industry changing, and I think that we're all recognizing that those relationships are very important. I think that we're all recognizing that for all of us to stay front and center and be able to do business differently than the way it's been done traditionally is important right now. And so not only are you seeing the engagement from up and coming auctioneers, but you're also seeing some of the auctioneers that are what I would call seasoned kind of reverting back and still needing to, hey, let's gather in some information maybe that some of these young guys can bring when it comes to technology and the way that we reach people. We live in a digital world, and so I think that it is important that we recognize that. For a long time we showed up on Saturday morning, even in my career, and I've been in the business for 12 years, which I consider a very, I don't consider myself a super seasoned guy at this point. I would still consider myself a up and coming. And so with that being said, even at the beginning of my career, we showed up on Saturday morning, we rolled all the stuff out, we had an auction, then we sold the house. It was just kind of the traditional way to doing that. And now that's changing. And so we are recognizing even here at our own company, hey, there's opportunities to grow. There's opportunities to adapt. And so I think that's one thing that we are seeing across this nation in the auction industry. And so with that being said, providing those educational opportunities as an association is very important to us. And I think that we're doing that. I think the Kentucky Auctioneers Association sees that need and is trying to fulfill it. And I think they're doing a good job of that. I am the president-elect. If I know you said to state what my position is, I'm the president-elect. So in 2025, I'll be the president of the Kentucky Auctioneers Association unless they vote me down this January. So then they
I don't think they'll do that. I don't think they'll do that. Congratulations. That's great.
Yeah,
You're the man for the job. Okay, let me ask you about the relationship, because you brought up something really interesting there, that the associations, and we'll talk about Kentucky in this conversation, but Tennessee is the same way, I think, and Oklahoma, I think, would be the same way. I keep up with their stuff a little bit. Arkansas, I think, is the same way. I keep up with their stuff a little bit. We are more willing to engage in relationships with other auctioneers. I think largely because most of our business is done via social media.
Yeah.
I think social media has changed the game on how auctioneers conduct business. And here's why. If I have a sale, and let's say since we're talking about horses a minute ago, if I have a horse sale and I post a flyer on social media, I know that my buddy Will Gregory, because you have an interest in this, that you're going to share that and that you're going to have clientele who's going to see it.
Yeah.
Right. See, in days gone by, that never would have happened. Right. But now, because everything is so relationship based rather than, I don't think you'll ever, I think the days of having a successful auction based on just advertising alone are done.
Yeah.
I mean, we ask people all the time at our sales, who saw this in the newspaper? No hands go up. You cannot get someone to read a newspaper anymore. Who saw this in Farmers Exchange? Maybe 5 or 10 hands. Who saw this on Facebook? Everybody.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody. Right. So, yeah, it's interesting because I think auction associations now are catching on to, if we want to promote relationship, how do we do that? Well, we go where the relationships are.
Yeah.
Right. So, Kentucky Auctioneers Association, you guys will have y'all's convention in January.
Yes.
Right. Any spoilers you can tell us about, like location?
No, we actually got a meeting tomorrow, so no, I don't have any spoilers at this point.
Well, hey, guys, I tried. What can I do but try?
Sorry.
All good. Well, let's talk a little bit more about some uniquely Kentucky things to some degree, and one of those would be the Battle of the Bluegrass.
Yeah.
I say uniquely Kentucky because Kentucky Auctioneers Association puts it on, right, as a fundraiser for the association. Of course, our dear friend Davin Smith is kind of the brains behind that operation, and Want to have Davin on too. I've got him on the list. It's Davin, if you're listening, it's coming.
Yeah.
It's coming. I
Yeah.
know he's been chomping at the bit to get on and talk about it, and I have been too. But Battle of the Bluegrass, man, that's a cool contest.
It is. It is. It's a lot of fun. It's a good contest. It's one that, there's a couple of contests that mean a lot to me, or ones that I guess I would set my sights on that would kind of be, I mean, just the ones for me. And the Battle is one of them. And the other one is Mule Day. I like the style of both of those. I'm more of yeah, it won't take long for you to figure out. I'm more of a Western style auctioneer, and so I like both of those contests a lot. I like the way that they're done. I like the way that they are promoted, and I just like the camaraderie of the whole thing. I like the auctioneers that it attracts. I just really enjoy the contest. And the Battle of Bluegrass, I think, Davin had went to Mule Day and really just enjoyed that. He's seen this vision for this in Kentucky, and so we started they started the Battle of the Bluegrass. I mean, Davin and Willie and a few of them, they just really done a good job of getting out there and pushing for this, and it's done a great job for the Kentucky Auctioneers Association, as well as for the professional auctioneer and promoting them in this state. It's a great opportunity, and I just really like what they do there.
So originally they had the Battle of the Bluegrass at the Bluegrass Stockyards in Lexington.
That's right.
I was fortunate enough to compete there one year. The following year was when they moved it to Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was fortunate enough to compete that year as well. I didn't get to go this past year. So tell me, they was still at Louisville at the State Fair.
That's right.
How has that change impacted the contest?
I think it's impacted it for the positive, for sure. Of course, it was really cool as an auctioneer to go to Bluegrass Stockyards and sell there at the Battle of the Bluegrass. It was a lot of fun. You love that atmosphere as an auctioneer. However, Saturday at Bluegrass Stockyards is not really a spectator day. There's not a lot of the stores open. There's not a lot of people in attendance. And so it done a good job of promoting, but through, like we talked about earlier, just through social media. There wasn't a whole lot of actual boots on the ground promotion there because we were just limited to what we could do and limited to the amount of people. Whenever this transition happened where we took it to the state fair, that was a game changer. So now the promotion side of it and the spectator side of it has grown just tremendously. So I think that was a great move. I don't know who to give credit to on that. I know that there was a few people involved as far as getting our foot in the door to get into the state fair, which is a big deal. But just want to say that was a great move for the association. And like I said, I would credit whoever that is. I don't know exactly. So, but that was a great move, and I think it was a game changer for the contest. And I think you can see that just as if you've been at both places as an auctioneer or even as a spectator, you can see in the crowd that it's a game changer. And so, even if those people, we invite them to bid. But even if they don't participate as bidders, just the fact that they come fill the seats for a little while is very helpful and good for our industry in general.
Yeah, so 2 years ago when I was competing at the state fair for the Bluegrass, that would have been 2023. It was interesting to me because we didn't register a lot of regular people. Most of the people who were bidding there, who were registered to participate, were people we bring with us, right? Yeah. Parents, spouses, kids, whatever, friends, all that stuff. Fair enough. You have to do that in an auction contest. Everybody knows it. We act like it don't happen, but I mean, everybody knows it.
Yeah.
But the cool thing was when you get somebody on stage like a Jason Miller or like a Will Gregory or, some of these other heavy hitters like the, golly, I'm trying to think. There's so many. Like Ryland Shea was there that year. You get some of those guys on stage, and you can hear it in the hallways. People stop.
Oh, yeah.
They want to come in and see what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
So this is the cool thing about the Bluegrass. I'm like you. Bluegrass, Mule Day, and TAA contest were the three that I wanted to succeed in. And the best I did in Bluegrass got reserve in 2022. And I think that's probably going to be where my story stops with the Bluegrass. Things are happening in my life where I think my competition days might be behind me, which is another story for another time and not the focus of this podcast. My point with this is You go to Mule Day, you go by the Bluegrass. I'll even throw TAA contest in. TAA is an open contest, so anybody's welcome to come. You go there, your friends are there. Everybody wants you to do well. Nobody wants anybody to fail. We all want to win, but nobody wants you to fail.
Absolutely.
I'm into some other contests, Will. It's like you walk in and the laser pointer on the sights are directed at you. Everybody wants you to just fall over and die.
Yeah.
And that doesn't do good for anybody, let alone the association putting on the contest, let alone the auctioneers in the contest. So what do you think it is that's so special about Mule Day, Bluegrass contests like that? KAA was that way when I was a judge there. Everybody was friendly and rooting for each other. What is it about those contests that keep the camaraderie the way that it is, and why is that so important?
Well, to me, there's a lot about, I mean, I think you got geographically that one, I think that Kentucky and Tennessee are the friendliest places in the world.
Amen.
So I think you got some of that comes into play. I'm sorry. I don't mean any disrespect to nobody. I've been all over this nation, but Kentucky and Tennessee, I mean, these people wave at you in the middle of the night, and that's just the way that it is. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think you got some of that, geographical location, a little bit Southern charm coming in there, but, I've been to some of those contests too where you don't really feel welcome. You don't, and I don't know what that is, but I will say, man, I think that our auction industry in general has really picked up the game in the network side of things and being able to help one another. I was fortunate enough, I went down to Alabama last year and I was fortunate enough to win that contest. And I'm going to tell you, those people treated me so well. I loved it. I'm going back in a couple of weeks to host their contest. I'm looking forward to it. And it's just a lot of fun. And then Taylor Osmond over in Georgia, he called and invited me to come to Georgia last year. And I really kind of wanted to go. It just didn't work out as far as scheduling and stuff goes. So, man, I think that we just got a good group of auctioneers that are recognizing, hey, that we don't have to be against one another. We can be for one another. And so I will say that the contests where I felt that way previously, I don't think if I walk back in there, and I don't think if you walk back in there at that same contest today that you would have that same feeling, because I think that our whole industry has recognized that it's a better forward motion for us all to help one another get there instead of trying to knock everybody's feet out from underneath them. So I'll say that proudly about the auction industry.
Yep, I agree. And I'll put it this way. I think another thing that has changed in the auction contest game is when auction contests they've always been popular, but when they became really popular, I mean, when Mule Day started and people who won Mule Day would go to win world titles like Justin Oaks and Chuck Bradley and, Trey Morris, and Jacob Massey eventually, of course, and others like that. When they started getting really popular, I think contests stopped being about who's going to win the buckle and more about, okay, the contest's on Saturday. When Monday rolls around and I've got a deal to put together, who can I call who can help me put this deal together?
Yeah.
I mean, I've made more money from going to contests from the relationships I've made after the contest than I'd ever make winning the check.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I've had a lot of job opportunities because of the contests that I've been in and relationships that I've built and that network that you start building. Whenever I went to Alabama last year, I left there with 4 opportunities to go work somewhere else for contract work. And I thought that was really cool. And, just met some really good people and some people that want to see you succeed, like Wayne Thorne, Mike Fisher. I mean, some of these guys down there in Alabama, hey, you're talking about just top-notch fellas, and they really do care about this industry and the up-and-coming auctioneers, and they want to see them do well. And you just really got to appreciate those kind of people that are willing to pour into that next generation. That's one thing that I think that Tim Haley, my mentor, the guy I work with every day, has taught me is there's so much value to investing in that next man. And, if it wasn't for Tim investing in me, not that I'm anybody special, but I sure wouldn't be where I'm at today in this industry if he wasn't pouring into me. And so I think that is the important part is you go out there in front of your peers, you put yourself in that vulnerable situation so that you can be poured into, and then eventually return the favor by pouring into others. And, that's what I think is important about these contests. A lot of times these guys want to go in there and all they can visualize is winning that buckler, winning that title. Well, really and truly, that title is never going to make you a quarter. What's going to make you money, or what is going to build your career, is the relationships that you build while you're there trying to advance to that title. I've told guys, I told them before the Battle of Bluegrass, that the titles that you win don't teach you anything. It's the ones that you lose that teach you, and that's so true. And that time that you're there, you don't just show up, do the contest and leave. Man, invest in other people and allow them to invest in you. And I've asked, my new question for a contest is this: what is my real purpose? That's my question to myself whenever I go into that. Whenever I'm getting mentally prepared to go into a contest, I want to think, what is my purpose? Because my purpose is not a buckle. My purpose is not to win some title. Yeah, it's good. That's what I want to do. I worked hard for it. I'm chasing it. But at the end of the day, who can I invest in? Who can I pour into that needs that? And who can I find to pour into me? Because I need it. You know what I'm saying? That's the purpose of the whole deal, is to build those relationships and help one another. We're all trying to do the same thing out here, man. And I think it's important that we recognize that, stay humble about it, and it don't matter who wins the title at the end of the day.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. What's the good Lord going to do if you die and go to heaven and you just show him all your buckles?
That's right.
I mean, he's just going to laugh at you, right?
Yeah.
He's just going to laugh at you. Now, that's not to say that don't try.
No, absolutely.
Obviously try, obviously do your best, but you got to keep the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
Appreciate you bringing that up, Will. Will, what do you do to prepare for a contest?
I watch videos of myself. I watch videos of others. I'm constantly counting. I'm constantly working on filler words. I'm constantly working on that chant. I break it down. I tear it apart. I kick it and scream and talk about what a piece of trash I am some days, and some days I feel like I'm really doing good. So I don't really know what my process is, but I do watch a lot of videos. I do try to make changes. Buddy Snoffer on the Ultimate Cowboy Showdown, he said something, and of course I've watched that before. I've watched all the seasons of that. Me and my kids love it, but I watched the newest season here the other day again, and he said that talent will beat hard work, but only if talent works hard. And man, I'm telling you right now, that stuck to me so. I mean, it was just so evident that's an important piece to take from that. And so, what I have been doing is, and I've been doing it for several weeks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I've come in here in my office early in the mornings, and I got a microphone set up out back, and I sit down and I work on my chant, my introductions. I work on all that stuff right there in the office. And the reason being is it's easy to do in your pickup truck. And it's easy to do right there in front of my wife and kids. We have a lot of fun with it. My kids got this silly little speaker. Sometimes they want to hear me auctioneer, and they turn it on. They turn it on different settings where it makes it sound funny. So, I mean, you're comfortable with your family. You have no problem doing all that. But whenever I come here in this office and I go back to the back building or to the back warehouse where I know that the people in the office can hear me, it takes me out of my comfort zone, which is very similar to the way you feel when you get up on the stage at a contest. So I started doing that a few weeks ago, and I thought, man, I'm going to put in the time. I'm going to put in the preparation and see where we go from there. And so, like I said, I kind of credit that to that quote, along with whenever I was shoeing horses, I also competed in that too, building horseshoes and shoeing horses. I tried to compete in that profession as well. And the guy that I work for down in Austin, Texas, Todd Walker, he's like an 8-time national team farrier. So he's the real deal. And he always told me that repetition is the mother of all skill. And so whenever I was building horseshoes, you're building a muscle memory. And so like if you was trying to get good at this forging exercise, man, it was just repetition. Just keep doing it. Build enough of them and you're going to figure it out. And kind of the same thing with the chant. Do it enough times, but do it correctly enough times. Break it all down, and then you'll finally build what you want out of it. So.
Yeah, I've shared this story, I think, a couple of times before on the podcast, but I'll share it again. When I was competing for the Tennessee state contest or preparing to compete for that contest, I had already won Mule Day. The previous year, I had no, it was Mule Day, and then I got second in Battle of Bluegrass, and then I was going to Tennessee State contest. So I guess in structure of size and significance of contests, this is nothing against the state contest, but I love state contests, and I think that state contests should get a better rap than they do from auctioneers. But Mule Day is pretty good. Bluegrass is pretty good, and then Tennessee is on a smaller scale to some degree, even though it's an open contest. And I just could not. I was so scared. I'm like, how can I do so well in these, and then what's going to happen if I don't make the finals?
Yeah.
How terrible. So forgive me for the sin of arrogance in that regard, but this is what led to what I did. I went home one day and put on the shirt I was going to wear, the suit I was going to wear, the tie I was going to wear, my watch, my wedding band, like everything. Did my hair, like everything. Went to we have a converted garage that has my desk and office stuff in it at home. And I have a sound system as well. And I got my wife and I said, I want you to sit here and I want you to bid for me. And we had a dress rehearsal. So, I mean, top to bottom, run through whatever item I was going to introduce, have it exactly. And I mean, you don't want to be so scripted that it sounds unnatural, of course, but we ran through it. We ran through it probably 10 times that night. And she sat there and God love her. She bid to me and, all that good stuff. And she cut me and whatever. I mean, well, it was a full dress rehearsal.
Oh yeah.
So I think sometimes we get in this mindset that, hey, I'm driving in the truck and I'm going to spend an hour going through my chant in the truck. Well, that's great for your chant. What about your introduction? What about your closing? What about your item description?
Yeah.
Do you have that down? What about the clothes you're going to wear? So this is something I found out with that dress rehearsal. The suit that I wanted to wear is tailored to me, but the sleeves on my jacket are kind of short. So when I reach my arm out, my sleeve comes up to here. So I had to learn I'm not going to fully extend my arm. I've got to, bring my arm in a little bit.
Yeah.
Will, what was the first contest you ever competed in?
I competed in the apprentice division at the Kentucky Auctioneers Association in 2013.
And how did that go?
I won it.
Very good. Very good. And did that light the fire in you for contests?
It did. It did, but it also come with some hard lessons.
Mm-hmm. Such as?
Such as whenever I started going towards the pro division, I was getting my butt kicked every year.
Yeah.
So I had to, I think I would kind of fall in the same category, like you said, maybe the sin of arrogance right there. I went in there and wrapped that first one up and thought I was really doing something. And then for the next, I don't know, that was in 2013. I won the state championship in 2020, and I didn't compete every year. I mean, I was so deflated at times I didn't even go.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not one that gets defeated real easy. I always tell everybody I'm too darn stubborn to give up, or too stupid one. So, but I went in there and I won that one in 2013. I think I probably competed in the state contest 4, maybe 5 times prior to the year that I won it, and I never made the finals. So it come with some hard lessons for me, but they was good lessons. And once I learned those lessons, I learned them well. I always heard that the lessons you learn best are the ones you buy. And so I felt like I bought myself some lessons there. One thing I would learn that I always tell any auctioneer, honestly, it doesn't matter what level you're on or what level you see yourself on or what you're trying to accomplish. If you want to be an auctioneer that's going to compete in contests, you have to recognize the same thing that Todd Walker tried to teach me to recognize back whenever I was trying to build horseshoes. I'm not competing against the next man. I'm competing against a scorecard. And whenever there's easy fundamentals that you can score, you score them. So the things that are an easy 10 points to gain, focus on those. Don't overlook them, because a lot of times what we do is we think, oh, well, that's not important because that's an easy 10 points for us. Well, The thing is, I need all 10 of those points in order to advance. And so I think that's one thing that we've got to keep in mind. I think a lot of times we develop this arrogance, especially whenever we get isolated. When we get isolated, we're out here and we're doing a good job, and we're selling every week or every few weeks, and we're making a good living, and we have completely excluded ourselves from our network. Now there's really no accountability, so to speak. And so what happens is we think, I'm going to show up over there this year at the KA contest, and I'm going to give them judges exactly what they need to hear. As long as I had that mindset, as long as I was like, I'm a good enough auctioneer, I'm going to get a good set of judges this year, and they're going to score me well. That was a terrible mindset. It's an arrogant mindset, and I don't recommend it to anybody. Yep. But whenever you experience that spirit of humility, and you recognize, hey, if I want to do well, I have to not give them what I think they need. I have to give them what they want.
Yeah.
That's how you start advancing in these contests, in my opinion. Once you start recognizing what's on that scorecard, what's important to the judges, and executing those things, that's whenever you can start advancing in contests.
Well, to your point, Will, there are people who I would say have the greatest, most pleasurable chant to listen to who don't make the finals at these contests. And part of it is because they can't get their introduction right.
Yeah.
They fumble over words. They don't know their item description. They went to Walmart the day before and bought 3 items and didn't look at them. You know what I mean? And, but then there are others that I personally, if I'm being transparent, I'm like, your bid calling chant really isn't too hot. And they win, or they get second or third every time. And the reason is because they've paid attention to the scorecard. They know what's on it. And I'll give you a little story about Mule Day last year. I was a judge for Mule Day. And the gentleman who won, Tucker Kale, when he got up, and he was cool as a cucumber, smooth. He's got a great chant, first of all. I mean, you don't have to worry about that. On the Mule Day scorecard at the very bottom, the question says, would you hire this auctioneer? And you can tell as a judge looking at an auctioneer in a contest whether you want to work with that guy or not.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm, for me, that's what I'm looking for as a judge. Is this someone that I can do business with? Is this someone that I would trust my grandmother's doilies with? You know what I mean? Just things like that. Okay, Will, I got one more question for you, then we'll hit some.
Well, hold on. While we're on that subject real quick, just real quick while we're there, is this like kind of a subtle way of you telling me you wouldn't hire me? Because I got second up there. Tucker beat me. You put it on there that you wouldn't hire me. Now you've done told everybody.
There were 4 other judges, Will. There were 4 other judges, and I don't know what they marked on you, but I know I'm just picking on you.
I'm just picking on you.
I think I had 2 guys that I marked either perfect or near perfect, and I don't mind saying now that it's over. One was Tucker and one was you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I'm just picking around, man. I was tickled death for Tucker. I will say that on that contest there, man, I really felt like I'd done all that I knew to do. But as I watched videos, he was talking about what I do to prepare. As I watched videos, as I started breaking myself down and I started assessing what I could have done differently, once I got rid of that arrogance and said, okay, what do I do to advance myself versus allowing myself to just stay in the same mind frame, I picked up a few things and I brought a different game to the battle. So
yeah, well, you're your own worst critic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So this is not necessarily auctioneering, but I go back and listen to every sermon I preach, which is terrible because I preach at least twice a week.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking at stuff. I'm like, I could have said this better. I could have used this verse at this point. I could have reworded this in a different way. Well, same thing's true with your auction contests. All of them are live streamed.
Yeah.
Go back, watch the live stream, get your wife or your girlfriend or your girlfriend's husband to record it for you. That's right. Yeah. Whatever the case is, you'll have video.
There's no reason to not find ways to adjust. There's no reason. I don't care whether you are the winner or you come in last place. There is something that you can adjust if you will just go back, watch yourself, and say, "Hey, here's something that I can improve on," and it could be an easy adjustment. Something that I worked on there was an easy adjustment. It was simple. But it worked, you know. So.
Yeah. Well, and I'll say this too. I know we're kind of beating the dead horse, but be careful who you get advice from. Uh, I never read scorecards. Part of that was because I didn't know the judges and I wasn't exactly sure what they were looking for. You might have one guy who's a livestock auctioneer, one guy who's a professional order buyer, one guy who does real estate. They're going to have different points on their scorecards. And, one might be good, one might be all right, but it just depends on your perspective. What I always did was after a contest, I would call a friend who was in the contest, give
Yeah.
it to me straight.
Yeah.
What did I do? What can I do better? Or I'd call somebody who watched the contest that I knew who would be honest.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So okay, well let's wind it down. Let me ask you this last question. We'll get in rapid fire questions after this. When they call out your name at the Battle of the Bluegrass as champion, walk us through the feeling that you had. Walk us through what was going through your mind at that point.
Man, I can't hardly even watch that part of the video. It makes me want to cry because I worked so hard for it, And that was a powerful moment for me, just because, honestly, I didn't know. I didn't know. And my wife and I talked about it. Of course, my wife, my mom, my dad, Tim, everybody's all, oh, you got it, And I'm like, y'all always say that, you always say that. So whenever he called out, and of course, if you see my Facebook post, man, that moment whenever he said from the little town of Auburn, Kentucky, I'm telling you right now, I didn't have a whole lot to say when I got on the stage because I was scared that I would start crying in front of everybody because it meant a lot to me. It's always good whenever you can work towards something and be successful with it. And undoubtedly, man, that was just by the grace of God as far as I'm concerned, because there's guys there that I can't compete with. You talking about some good hands up there. And but I was fortunate enough to get the judge's favor that day, and feel very blessed because of it. And it was just a ball of emotions, and I didn't really know how to hold them all in, so I just kept it all tucked.
So, well, I'm proud for you, man. Let's end this deal with some rapid fire questions. Basically, what this is a little 1 or 2 word answers or a sentence or two, but I don't care. You can take as long as you want. We got all night.
Okay.
Question number 1, Will. What's the weirdest item that you have sold at auction?
An urn.
Did it have ashes in it?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness! Did a family member buy it?
No, it was I don't know. I say it had ashes in it. I don't really know exactly what it had. Something in it though. It had something in it. It was at an auction house, so I don't really know, but it was weird.
I don't believe I'd have looked.
No.
Will, is there an item that you have sold that, when people find out what you do for a living, you say I'm an auctioneer, and they ask you about it, that this is one that sticks out as like a really cool item to talk about. It's one that you like to bring up a lot to tell people about.
Yeah, and it don't have as much punch as it once did, but in 2021, one of the honors of being the 2020 champion was I got to sell the grand champion ham at the state fair, and it sold for $4.8 million, which at the time doubled the previous record set by my buddy and co-worker Leon Shirk of 2.4 million. So whenever I sold that ham for 4.8 million, that is an easy way to tell people about what you do and kind of express some interest in that. It's a pretty cool story.
Yeah. Well, Alex Popplewell sold last year, or this previous one, for, is it 10.5 million?
Yeah, 10.5. Yeah.
Golly, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Will, what's your favorite filler word?
Get them on.
Do you prefer doing auctions online or live?
I'm a live man.
Yeah, boy. Let's see. Who are some auctioneers that you love to listen to?
I'm going to say the ones that I just love to listen to is probably Chuck Bradley is probably the one that I would listen to the most. I think Chuck Bradley, probably his style is similar to mine. And so to me, he's a guy that I listen to a lot and respect a lot, as far as auction chant goes and all this stuff. I mean, just in general, but his auction chant is one that I like to listen to. Man, I'm a nut for it. Like I always go to the WLAC page and I start scrolling through those guys. Roger Emmy, that dude. I think he's just bad to the bone. I love Jacob Massey, Wade Leist. I mean, I can go through them all. And I do a lot of times. A lot of times I go through there and I'm kind of listening to several different ones, and then. But yeah, I'd say old Chuck is probably one that I like to listen to a lot.
God took a little extra time making his vocal cords.
Man, that dude can flat
Just
carry
has a
them well.
voice. He just has
Yeah.
a voice that carries. It's deep. It's bouncy. One of these days, I'm going to get Chuck on here. He don't know it yet, but one day
Yeah.
it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Will, what is one piece of advice you'd give a brand new auctioneer?
I think that if you want to be successful in this business, I think it is important. I think an auction chant is important. And I think, it's a great talent. It's a great thing to have in your arsenal. But I think that if you want to be successful in this business, that you need to make yourself present, make those that you want to learn from aware that you are eager to learn, and work on your management skills, your project management skills. That's what I always tell them at auction school. I tell them that Tim Haley didn't start investing in Will Gregory because he had this miraculous chant, because I don't, and nor did I then. However, Tim Haley started investing in me because I started running around behind Tim Haley everywhere he went, showing him, hey, I want to learn this business. And, he's seen that I was willing to work. He could trust me with day-to-day operations. And that is what's important, man. Work ethic is what will get you moving forward, not only in this business, but any business, any industry in this world, as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely. One final question, Will, and that is, would you sell something for us?
Right now?
Yeah, right now.
What do you want me to sell for you?
Lord, sell me a yearling stud colt.
A yearling stud colt. All right, let's say he's a Percheron stud colt. Hey, how do I get right here? What are you talking about now? How do I get about $10,000? How do I get about 10, 10, 10, 10? How do I get about 2,000? Now $3,000. How do I get about 3, 3, 3? How do I get about 4 and 5? How do I get about 5,000? How do I get about 5, 6 grand? It's $6,000. How do I get about 6, 6,000? How do I get about 6 here? 55. Now $6,000. And 5,500, $6,000 here. How do I get about 6? How do I get about 6,000? How do I get about 6? Sold him right there at 5,500. Sold him 5,500.
Chant of a champion, buddy. Chant of a champion. I love it. I love it. Will,
I didn't expect that one. You caught me off guard with that one, Josh.
Well, shoot, man, it's an auction podcast. We're going to get bid call a little bit. No, but really, I do appreciate you being on, man. It's been a joy just to sit down and talk with you. I love you. I'm thankful for you. I appreciate you. And I know a lot of other people do as well in this business. So I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Lord willing, at Mule Day at least, if not before then.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there. Man. I appreciate what you're doing, and thank you for having me on here. It's a real honor.
You bet. You've been listening to the Better Bid Calling podcast. If you would like to sponsor an episode, please contact us at betterbidcalling@gmail.com.